Today we're going to talk about how to get relaxed conversations about spiritual things going with non-church people. Many people in the West have rejected the idea of religious truth, and as a result they think that all religions are essentially the same. And all this leads to a critical question. How can you tell the truth to someone who doesn't believe that religious truth exists? Well, the answer is actually very simple. You can't. It's logically impossible. So what can we do? Well, we can talk with them about it. It's called conversation, and a conversation is a little bit like an adventure. When we start one, we never know where it will go.
And I'd suggest to you that we have a great role model for this conversational approach in Jesus. Take a look through the Gospels and see how many times Jesus engages a conversation with a question. For example, in Luke 18, an expert in the law asks, "Good teacher, what must I do to inherit eternal life?" Jesus replies to his question with a question, "Why do you call me good?" Then men try to trap Jesus by asking by what authority he does what he does. He replies, "I will also ask you a question. Tell me, John's baptism, was it from heaven or from men?" And there are many more examples like this. By asking questions, Jesus turns the question back on those who sought to criticize, while inviting others into the conversation. The key to great conversations is great questions, and as long as we have a heart to encourage others, it's a skill set we can learn.
Hey guys, can I share with you 3 great questions that could help?
That'll be great, Luke.
The first question is, what do you mean by that? It clarifies what a person's saying, buys us time to think, and also turns the question back on them if they've criticised. Secondly, where did you get that idea from? This further clarifies why a person believes something, which is important if we're trying to find a way to encourage them. And then thirdly, you try and help them consider a different perspective to their own, but you do this by asking questions. Have you considered? Are you aware of? That sort of stuff. For example, someone suggests...
Hey, look, aren't all religions essentially the same?
What do you mean the same? In what ways?
Don't all religions talk about love?
Where did you get that idea from?
I don't know.
Are you aware that all the major religions are majorly different in major ways? I mean, some say there is a God, some say there isn't. How is that the same?
I don't know.
You see, by asking questions, she's spoken twice and I've only asked questions. And yet this may have already opened her mind to see things in a new way.
And taking time to ask questions like this is important because there can be many reasons lying behind a person's belief. For example, someone says,
"I don't believe in God."
"What do you mean? Do you think there's nothing there?"
Yeah.
Now, you might assume that she's an atheist and give some proof for God's existence, but you might wisely hold back and ask,
"Where did you get that idea from?"
Well, how can there be with so much suffering in the world?
Okay, so why do you say that?
And maybe she reveals that her mother died from some terrible illness and you discover that she's been bitter towards God ever since. You see, the way you'd respond to someone who doesn't believe in God for an intellectual reason would be very different to the way you talk to somebody with grief, which is more of an emotional reason. And because you know a little of how she's thinking, you can empathize with her hurt, as well as asking if she thinks God's responsible for suffering.
You see, the key to great conversations is very simply great questions. And with questions like these, it's possible to engage some truly meaningful conversations. So please, take a selfless interest in others and their views.
And when you disagree, instead of disagreeing, investigate.
Ask questions, seeking to really understand, like, what do you mean by that? Where'd you get that idea from, and have you considered?
So why not try them out? Because conversations are like adventures, and sometimes they're no further away than a great question.